Templars, Holy Knights, Paladins. They are the shield that guards against the darkness, and the blade that plunges into the heart of evil. Bound and empowered by a divine oath, Paladins are sworn to protect the weak and destroy the wicked. These shining paragons of duty, honor, glory, and devotion have been made known in every corner of the material plane. Many are the tales of heroism enacted by these dauntless warriors of righteousness. But for every song of glory won, there is another of tragedy and loss. Bards lament the tellings of many paladins who have faltered, falling in their duties, and forsaking their sacred oaths in favor of personal goals, the pursuit of power, or lack of convictions, becoming the ire of a curse which bids their bodies to wander the world forever as one of the undead, clad in vicious black plate armor and wielding horrific swords which house what is left of their souls, becoming the Knights of Death. One such tale of a great paladin falling into the clutches of undeath is the doom of Godfrey the Grim. Godfrey was a military veteran from the northern city of Luskan on the Sword Coast. Having grown up on the icy frontier, Godfrey was a hard man, disciplined, dour, and ruthless in combat, earning him the moniker the Grim, sought after for his expertise in battle and understanding of the snow-blanketed sea of ice. Godfrey participated in many battles as a mercenary. His victories were so great that he soon found himself in the command of an entire company of battle-hardened sellswords. Calling themselves the Sons of Godfrey, they were the most dangerous band of mercenaries for 50 leagues in all directions, known for their lethality and brutal swordsmanship, but also possessed of a strong camaraderie to one another. Godfrey's devotion to his newfound brotherhood was so deep that he chose to walk the path of a paladin. Kneeling before an altar of Tempest, the god of war, Godfrey the Grim swore an oath of devotion to his men, vowing to always lead them to glory and never betray their newfound brotherhood. Given divine power through his own devotion and the blessings of the god of war, the Sons of Godfrey won battle after battle, driving back hordes of orcs from the mountains, immense hosts of goblins and hobgoblins from the far north, and other threats to the land. One day, the Sons of Godfrey were petitioned by the lord of the city of Luskan. One of his outposts to the east had been overrun by a horde of the undead, led by a terrible necromancer. Godfrey's age would continue to catch up with him, but despite the protests of his free company, he refused to retire. He would join them in battle against the unliving threat. Each night of their journey, the Sons of Godfrey were harried by the forces of the necromancer, and slowed further by unnatural weather, no doubt the product of her dark magics. When they finally reached the outpost, there were at a fraction of their original strength. But true to his namesake, Godfrey the Grim would not relent, and charged his remaining forces into the fortress of the necromancer. The battle lasted for an entire day. Though the Sons of Godfrey were determined, well-equipped, and disciplined, the endless tide of zombies and skeletal warriors was slowly grinding them down. The paladin leader was flanked by his most trusted company veterans and closest friends. Together they hacked a path towards the necromancer, Godfrey's divine protections shielding them from the worst of the wizard's dark magics. Still the mage proved no easy prey, and hearing the death cries of his men around him, Godfrey grew desperate. A creeping sensation of fear slowly inched its way up his spine. Dying on the sword of a man was one thing. Even being gutted by a hideous beast would be something, but being slowly torn apart by flesh-hungry ghouls or blasted into ashes by dark magic was another matter. Worse, his death here would mean joining the necromancer's ranks of the undead. Overcome with terror and desperation, Godfrey pushed the last surviving veteran of his free company into the necromancer. The wizard, caught off guard by the underhanded tactic, was forced to the ground. Godfrey seized the moment of confusion and ran his sword through the both of them. The necromancer was defeated, and his army of the undead began to crumble away as the magic which animated their corpses left them. Though he had achieved victory, the consequences of his actions would be far worse than what even the Grim could have anticipated. Tempest, the god of war whom Godfrey has sworn his oath to, was offended by the act of cowardice and dishonor his paladin had taken, and afflicted him with a terrible curse. Without warning, Godfrey the Grim ignited in unholy green fire, burning away his flesh and animating his skeleton. The great warrior had become a skeletal knight, clad in charred black armor with eyes burning pits of red malice. Driven by a relentless hatred of the living, he slaughtered any sons of Godfrey that survived the battle. Godfrey was now a Death Knight. What a fool I was. Every warrior wishes for glory and battle in the beginning, and I was no different. But once I had those things, and age began to take hold of me, I found the secret truth buried in the hearts of all warriors, the desire for peace. The low, humming desire that one day I may put down my sword for the final time and fall blissfully into the arms of my God on the hour of my death. What a fool I was. I would never have this peace. My battles, my wars had not ended. They will not ever end. Not since I first left my home, since the first time I held a sword. On that day I became an instrument of war, of death. I just didn't realize it. Resting in my hands is that same sword, the blade that has been with me since I was a child. It has ever been my closest companion. More than any other weapon has this one marked me. It was with me through my life and my death. Now it is the only thing that grants me comfort. I could sit beside a roaring bonfire and still feel cold gnawing at my bones, but when I hold this blade I feel a shadow of warmth. I could run hundreds of leagues across the sea of ice and never once feel the beating of a heart, for I no longer have one. Perhaps I never did. All sensations of life I once had are gone now, but they still linger in my memory like the cruel, echoing howls of a lone wolf abandoned by its pack. It is only when I wield my sword that I can truly feel what it was like to be alive. The edge on my blade has never dulled, not once in these 2 centuries of my cursed existence. It is as sharp as the day I first bloodied it. Sharper, perhaps. It hums with a malevolence now. It cries out for one thing that can calm it. The one act that can restore vigor to my undead form. Death. Death to the living. I no longer dream. I no longer sleep, or eat, or breathe the cool air. But I do remember. This curse has taken so much from me, yet it leaves behind that which I most desire lost. My memories. It was with this same sword that I first took the Paladin's oath. I devoted myself to a mighty god of war. I gave my blade, my body, and my soul to the cause of honorable battle. I vowed to always lead from the front, to fight with courage and honor no matter how terrifying the foe. I vowed to never betray my brothers in arms, and to never show fear in the face of death. That was my oath, and I meant every word of it. I believed every word of it. What a fool I was. Most so-called warriors claim to be fearless, It is easy to make such claims when atop the back of a mighty warhorse, mowing down unorganized hordes of goblins with a great sword or a crossbow, or being tucked safely behind the ramparts of city walls, blasting at dots moving on the horizon with ballista and catapults. Most men never know true fear. To be face to face with the worst monsters the material plane can offer, to stare death in the eyes, is something most men, even most soldiers, don't expect or experience. But I did, or so I thought. My men and I were always on the front lines. We were the first to meet the enemy, whoever they were. I stared down a wall of spears and held my ground against rampaging owlbears. I was never afraid. I was a paladin, a Templar of war. I thought I had conquered fear, like all the other so-called great warriors. Soon that fear would test me, and I would fail. I had a choice that day, to keep the oath I swore, to fight the enemy head-on and accept no shortcuts, even if it meant my death. I thought I could do it, but when the moment came, I hesitated. During my battle with the necromancer of Luskan, I was terrified, not just of my own death, but being reborn by dark magic as his undead puppet. I was willing to do anything in that moment to end the wizard and save my own soul, even murdering my own brother at arms, if it meant victory and salvation from the nightmare of undeath. Had I known what damnation that blow would have brought onto me, I would have let the necromancer's magic burn me to ash. The wrath of the god of war was swift. No sooner had I pulled the sword from my brother's back, did my body erupt in green fire. The ghostly flames burned away my flesh, leaving nothing but bones and charred black armor. I screamed, even as my tongue boiled and lungs turned to ash. When I was nothing but bones, the sickly green fire ran down my arms and into my sword, taking my soul with it. I once heard that a warrior's soul resided within his blades, but a warrior's soul belongs in his heart, in a beating, living heart fueled by passion and duty. All passion and duty is gone from me now. I am no longer a warrior, just a murderer, an undead horror who makes war upon life itself. My eyes no longer shine with a desire for glorious battle, they only blaze with a bitter malice. My blade no longer falls upon the enemies of my people. It falls now on any living soul with the misfortune to cross my path in the night. I am a death knight. In the centuries since my curse first took hold, I have seen many who called themselves heroes encounter me. They come to my ruins, they make grand boasts of heroism, claiming to be the ones to finally put an end to my evil, my suffering. They swagger about, so sure of their own victory, of their own righteousness. It reminded me of who I once was, of what I once was. And the bitterness returns with twice the vigor, till all memories of life are washed away by a tide of darkness, and my soul weapon aches with the desire to spill the warm blood of the living. In the moments of battle, I feel alive again. There was once a sorceress who cast a powerful spell of shattering on my sword. She must have known that my soul resided within the blade, and hoped that destroying it would destroy me in turn, like a lich's phylactery. Her look of victory gave way to despair, as with a single touch of my skeletal hand did the blade repair itself in full, without so much as a nick to its razor edge. I let the malice and dark magic within my undead form accumulate in my hand, and reduced the sorceress to ashes in a ball of black fire. I do my best to grant the mortals I kill an honorable death, in the hopes that Lord Tempest would see my deeds as worthy of forgiveness. Some of these mortal adventurers even managed to best me in battle, destroying my body, but I always return in time, embraced by cold misery and malice once again, and the memories of my shame. The memories of how I came to such a cursed existence grow stronger on nights when the moon is full. Overcome by a melancholy, I sing my despair into the night. It is a haunting sound, surprisingly soft and somber. Some mistake it for the singing of fairies or fae folk in the night. One such fool was a warrior who came to my ruined fortress during my lamentations. When he saw what I truly was, he boasted and challenged and cut off my song. In that moment, I could feel the dark magic animating my body boil over with rage. I charged at the living fool, swinging my dark blade with the force of a thunderbolt. The knight was no fool or rookie warrior, and skillfully pirouetted out of my flurry of strikes. His long, thin rapier found its mark and chipped away at the bones exposed in the joints of my black armor. An ordinary blade would hold no harm for me, but I could feel the faint hum of magic in his weapon. He mocked me with every parry and feint, and my wrath screamed out all the greater. My soft, melodic tones turned into a baleful shriek, an inhuman sound bursting from my skull. When I was cursed to be a death knight, I found that the powers I had in life were not stripped from me completely. I could wield some of the arcane forces I used to, and with a gesture, an invisible force gripped at the swordsman. His body went stiff as my chill magics held him in place, a spell of paralysis. Such tactics are dishonorable, I knew this, but I did not care. He reminded me of everything I hated, everything I had lost, everything that drove me to my curse in the first place, and what's more, he interrupted my moonlit song. My soul cried out from within my sword, begging for this fool's blood, and I slaked it. I ran my cursed sword through his heart. My burning eye sockets watched with a baleful glee as the young warrior's life was drained from him. In mere moments, the necromantic energies of my soul blade rotted him from the inside out, till he was just a husk. With one final swing, I reduced what was left of him to dust. My rage sated, I returned my hollow gaze to the moon, and resumed my mournful melody. One day, when another band of adventurers strong enough to defeat me arrives, perhaps I will be destroyed for good, and my soul finally free. Until that day, my skeletal fingers shall hold tight to the handle of my soul blade, ready to make war upon life itself, as a knight of death. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Through the Eyes of a Monster. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, consider subscribing, leaving a like, ringing the bell, sharing the video around, all that YouTube stuff. You've been here before. Also, leave a comment below telling me about Death Knights and why you think they're cool, or why you don't think they're cool, or how you use them in your games. I love hearing stuff like that from you guys. And finally, a special thank you to my patrons up on the screen. There aren't that many of you, but to be frank, you all mean the world to me. I couldn't be here without you guys, so thank you all. And with that said, I'll see y'all in the next one. Cheers!